Hi, how are you? Hope you are doing well. And firstly, a big welcome to TPC, Thought Process Conditioning. The ultimate goal with TPC as a effective cognitive program is to help individuals, to help people come to the most important aspect to their lives, actually to realize, in order to actualize that everything, everything in regards to the person that you're going to become, what you're going to achieve, ultimately your life's journey all begins in the mind. I'll say that one more time. It all begins in the mind. And number two, in the form of what we call TMIs, thoughts and mental images. So the person that you want to become, what you want to achieve, your life's journey, all begins in the mind in the form of mental images. Why mental images? Because we think in images. The written language, for example, came into existence once again describing mental images. If I say the word apple, what pops into your mind? Obviously, it's going to be, that's right, an apple. So ultimately, it's truly mental images that govern how we feel and what we're going to do. So the images, the mental images that you perceive the most, you're going to feel the most and actually do the most. I was at a meeting, like a CSG, Community Share Group meeting last Wednesday, and it was one of the members there talked about suicide. And he asked my opinion. My opinion on people who unfortunately take their lives is that they are consumed with a mental image eventually, because all is mental imagery and the conditioning of mental images that are processing in your mind. So I'll give an example. If you have a mental image that is, for example, the word sad, if you hearing that now, would instantly conjure up an actual image that's congruent with that word sad. And so, but if that image of sad, it could be how you have created that image. If that is not only a constant image, but becoming, because every image that is constantly processing in your mind, eventually, because imagery is not only energy, mental imagery is not only energy, but imagery is like a magnet. It will actually draw you to whatever that image that you have created in your mind. So eventually the image takes over the host, and where the image goes, the individual will follow, because the images that you perceive the most, you feel the most, and you're going to do the most. So my breakdown of that at that meeting last Wednesday was based on mental imagery. The top athletes in the world, I would say most professional sports people practice and utilize mental imagery in order to see themselves, to visualize themselves winning. So TPC as a cognitive program is about helping people not only utilize mental imagery, but enable mental imagery to drive them towards the life that they want, and also the goals that they want to achieve. One of the principles of neuroscience is that TMIs, thoughts and mental images, that sync in the mind, link in the mind, fire and wire in the mind. And so mental imagery eventually morphs into chemicals that actually affect your biology. The TPC 4Ps, and this is somewhat the functionality of how mental images begin and end. So the TPC 4P, first P is process. So when images pop into your mind, they process in your mind. And one of the meanings for the word process is a series of actions taken in order to complete or come to a particular end. That is ultimately the aim, the goal of a mental image, is to come to a particular end. So when mental images are processing in your mind, eventually a mental image or mental images become your perception. And your perception is simply a mental image that is held and perceived by the mind at that particular time. Remember that images change, frequently. Hence, your perception changes frequently as well. It all depends on the consistency that deepens the impression of that image. So, if you have a particular image that you are perceiving constantly, what deepens the impression of that image is constant perception of that mental image. So that ultimately is what perception is. It's just an image or images held in the mind at that particular time. And eventually, as images are energy, those images are now projected from you. I'll give an example. If, let's say, you were fortunate to go into a room of people, a group of people, open the door and there's the group of people sitting down there are TPC practitioners. And so if they were TPC practitioners, they would be anchoring positive images in order to become their perception to project. So because that group of people, that room that you opened the door to are now in that room, I have no idea why I'm getting so detailed on this, you'll start to feel good. Why? Because it's the images that are projected, what we call collective imagery. That's why being in a group of people that are positive is good for you, because you become the recipient of that energy. That images are energy, you become the recipient of. And so that's images projected. The other aspect is based on quantum physics. Einstein's quote was, "The field," referring to quantum physics as the sole governing agent of the particle. So as those images are projected in the quantum field, they become ultimately the TPC last P, which is produced. So what you visualize, you eventually are going to materialize. The TPC 4 Ps: process, perception, project, and produce. And that's somewhat an idea, a basic concept of how mental images begin and end. And now it comes down to conditioning. Conditioning your mind is the key. And the conditioning TPC tools to reset your mindset are, the first is TPC 2D, which is detect and determine. It's important, firstly, for you to become the control center of your mind. What you find is, because this is not taught, unfortunately, a huge percentage of the world's population are being led by mental images that are simply running on autopilot. And those images running on autopilot become a TMI pattern that determines your life pattern. So your life pattern is a direct connection to your TMI, your thought and mental image pattern. So TPC 2D's fantastic cognitive tool. And like any conditioning, whether it's body or mind, it takes work, it takes consistency until you see that improvement, and then that whatever it is becomes conditioned. So TPC 2D, like an alarm system to your house. Someone breaks into your home, the alarm system sets off an alarm and alerts you or the neighbors. So that's TPC 2D. Eventually you'll realize that you'll be able to detect images that are not serving you, that are not productive, And then once you identify those images, then you determine what you're going to do with that. And the best thing really is to identify. But it's funny, when you identify a negative image, it seems to evaporate. It's quite odd and weird. So that's TPC 2D. The next is TPC Deep State. TPC Deep State is very similar to meditation. The word meditation means to become familiar with. So TPC Deep State will help you become familiar with how your mind functions. And the TMIs that are processing in your mind. So the mind and the brain, the mind is you as awareness, consciousness. The mind is obviously in the unseen world, but you as the mind are awareness and consciousness. The brain itself is physical matter, obviously, 3 pounds of greyish gooey stuff with approximately 1 billion neurons. And a neuron is a specialized cell that sends information throughout the brain. So the brain ultimately is a receiving station of TMIs, thoughts and mental images, that are actually processing in your mind. So it's two worlds: the unseen world, which is where TMIs are, thoughts and mental images, and the mind. And it's the seen world, which is obviously physical matter, which is the brain. TPC Deep State, fantastic cognitive tool. And thirdly, TPC anchoring. So throughout the day, you'll have positive images. Capture and anchor those images within your mind, within your psyche. Very similar to a dream catcher hanging on the doorpost of your room, catching dreams. TPC anchoring is another fantastic cognitive tool, TPC cognitive tool, to teach you basically to capture those images and build up positive image banking, where basically the images that you have that are stored, that are processing, are images that are positive. And the other, and lastly, TPC guided imagery, TPC imagery. As I mentioned before, in regards to athletes, anyone who's in a profession where they are needing assistance in every aspect of their life, remember, all begins really in the mind. Actually, all begins in the mind in the form of mental images. So imagery, TPC imagery, will teach you how to imagine. Because Einstein, one of his other quotes was, imagination is better than knowledge. So unfortunately, there are a lot of people imagining the worst, and that becomes a pattern. Don't do that. Imagine always the best, because when it comes to imagine, what you're doing is creating an image. That is what you're doing. Because what you think about, ultimately you're going to bring about. So TPC is a cognitive program, very effective. It's all about conditioning your mind. It's important to realize that prevention is better than cure. So that's why start conditioning your mindset now with TPC. So I'm a TPC mindset coach, TPC image therapist. If you want coaching, I will help you in pretty much every aspect of your life, from health to fitness to wealth to overcoming any issue in your life, because it all begins in your mind. So as a TPC mindset coach, it will be a privilege for me to help you to not only overcome the challenges of life that first start in your mind, but really to reset your mindset to basically to live the life that you should be living. So feel free to give me a call. My contact number is 027 589 1854. It's 027 589 1854. Or else book in for a coaching with me online here, and I will see you basically either on the coaching or else at one of our TPC Mindset boot camps and retreats coming up very soon. But anyway, I wish you much success, and ultimately what really matters is what you're going to do from this point forward. From this point forward, realize and actualize that it all begins in the mind, in the form of mental imagery, and TPC thought process conditioning will help you, number one, to become the control center of your mind in order for you to become the control center of your life. Talk to you soon.